Right, so we're back once again for another episode on the Peugeot 306 estate, and we are still continuing with this manifold, so let's get on with it. Okay, so saying we're on this manifold may have been a bit of an overstatement. The manifold is indeed now complete. As we can see, this has been test fitted in the car with a turbo on now. I've locked this V-band into place. And next step is going to be to mount the hot side of the turbo on, and we've got to start making some kind of support bracket to just try and take some of the weight off this end. Manifold itself is pretty heavy as it is. With the V&T turbo on top, it's a fucking killer. It's going to end up cracking something. So all we can do is make a mount which will be active. It will move with the heat expansion of the exhaust manifold and just take some of the stresses away from the manifold itself. In the last video also we see that I managed to damage the V&T turbo. Now this was done when I was trying to clock the core in the hot side. Now I've done all the bolts, all the usual stuff, give it a little love tap, it just did not want to move. So the next easiest way was going to be to extract it. In extracting it, of course, I've been a bit heavy-handed, and I'm not quite sure what you call this, the vane nozzle ring, something like that. But anyway, we cracked it clean off. I'm not going to touch it because it is sooty as fuck. But yeah, cracked it clean off, and basically that turbo is now scrap. So I had a little search around, thanks to a friend, Daniel Mountain. He suggested a page, I can't remember what they're called now. If I can remember, I might put the link up here somewhere. But they do all the bits for these V&T turbos, basically every spare, every nut, bolt, the works. I'm going to put a brand new core straight in these housings. The housings themselves are good, I just messed up the core. So brand new core going in that, hybridised one as well, so should be a little bit more efficient if anything. Not that I'm going to notice it on an old mechanical engine. Just a note as well, the reason why I can't just replace this nozzle ring is because one of the bolts snapped off, and it snapped off flush in the actual backen plate. Me being a chimp, tried to drill it, tried to extract it, completely fucked the job up. So that core dead. It's a bit of a shame because it was actually a good turbo, but on the upside, with a fresh engine rebuild, we now get to know that it's going to be a fresh turbo as well, so there will be no dirty oil contaminants anywhere in the system. So one of the first jobs is going to be, I've got to drill some of these out. These are just little spacers, what I had kicking around out of stainless. I'm going to drill them out to 8mm, so they hopefully slot behind the bolts for the vacuum pump. And then I've got some mountain pickup points to come across with some stainless bar. Now, I've got some 12mm bar around here somewhere, so I need to have a dig, but as you can see, this place is a bit of a shit tip, so it's going to take more than 5 minutes to find that. But then the other thing I've got to do is strip that turbo back down, because at the moment this is unsupported, so if I put the full weight of the turbo on, it might end up moving this V-band here, which I don't want this to slip. I have reference marked it for the second, but if it slips, it's all got to go back in the car, and I've got to check the clearances all again to make sure I've got clearance on my oil return, on the bonnet, everything like that. Excuse me. Alright, so just having a quick play around with these spacers and stuff, and it turns out they actually fit the backen plate perfectly, but I'm not quite sure that's the way I want to go, to be honest. I think I can do a little bit of a neater job. So I've got a nice little bit of angle here. Zoom in, I've just drilled out 2 6mm holes, hopefully they're in the right place, and then I'm going to cut the profile out so it actually enrobes the backen plate for the turbo. Well, that's the piece of angle now test fitted, so next step is going to be to profile it. Easiest way is just going to be to use my actuator bracket, so just gently bolt it in there, trace it, because I know this is a perfect profile to that turbo core. Right, so I just finished off profiling this bracket to go on the turbo. So my train of thought, we've got a rod eye, so it moves, obviously. But we weld a bolt onto there. That gives us a rod eye which is active with heat expansion to a degree. We've still got a support weight. Now I've drilled out my spacers, and if we have a look at this lower one, so it turned out this is a stud, so I can actually keep this engine bracket, whatever it is, but we'll have 3 points of contact potentially, maybe more. If we look in terms of where stuff lines up, we can see this one is pretty much straight in line. So my thought is nice bit of bar bent up and over with the rod eye. The next two, so one will come over to support, one will come from under to support, so it should hopefully stop that droop. Now I'm using 12mm bar as well, so there's not exactly a lot of droop in 12mm bar, but we've got to make it as rigid as possible. If I've got any other scrap, I might even make it thicker if possible. So I've now bent up the first bar. Right, I've tacked the bolt onto the bracket, drilled a cap head out, pushed 12mm bar up into it as well, so that's nice and secure. And now I'm just getting the MIG welder out. We've got to tack that onto its first collar. So this I would probably call the main support bar, but that should be tacked in there. And then yeah, that's not quite going to sit there, but we'll build another bar up and under to support it to stop any sag. And then we will build another one up and probably merge it into about here somewhere, just blend it in. That's still fucking hot. Probably blend it in up to around this cap head to really strengthen around that cap head. But yeah, so that's kind of what we're going for. And the idea is this remains rigid on the engine, gives the manifold some support, hopefully supports some weight, but that rose joint will still be able to move and hopefully remain active with the heat. I mean, it's very robust, all up to the point of, you look, it's mounted on 2 M6s. So, I mean, I don't know. I could possibly build another bit to come round onto these 2 mounting points as well. There's bits and pieces I can do to keep building on this and reinforcing it. But for now, I think that'll help. Another one, just to note as well what I've done. So I'm expecting a little bit of sag in this 12mm bar. If I haven't got a long length of it now, but if you get a long length of it, like, I know it's exaggerating, but 2 meters, you can get it to just bend a little bit. So I've put a washer under the rod eye at the moment, and that's anticipating some sag. So I'll take that washer out at the end, that won't be needed, bolt that straight down, and hopefully that preloads this tensioner just ever so slightly. Don't want to go too mad because obviously it reintroduces stress back into the manifold, but method in the madness and all that bullshit. So that's this first brace bar now all welded up. So she's all welded on there. She's got an M8 cap head. It's actually easier for access to get a cap head in there. Though later on I've got to change from stainless hardware. Stainless and aluminium do not mix. But yeah, lovely little bend in there. Welded just a cap head straight on the end. That was the easiest way to give myself a thread. I mean, she's lovely and solid. It's like ridiculous how solid that is. Hopefully it's not a bad thing, but we've got this rod eye in here just to allow that little bit of movement. So I've also finished off this bracket, as you can see, just dressed up the corners and everything, polished it up and welded that cap head in. Right, so up next I've got to try and put a secondary bar in. So this is the failed attempt from earlier, but might now come in handy. So hoping we can do something a little like that. Just sort of crosses over, bit of extra strength in here. I mean, that one, I wouldn't trust it by itself, to be honest. So casually trying to weld this next support bar in, and it sounds like the fucking heavens have opened up. Let's go have a nosy. Can't even fucking hear the music over this. Decent. That's the second bar now welded in, and yeah, it's not the prettiest welding. That's about my only fucking quarrel with it so far, but it's solid as fuck. Like that's ridiculous. By the time I put the extra bar in down there, I reckon I could probably pick the engine up off that. Not that I'd want to, but so yeah. Next step. Keep looking at this lift point on the block, and I don't like it. I don't like the idea of having to come off the end of this stud or anything like that. After looking around, there's not really much else suitable to use, so I'm actually thinking of doing away with this for the purpose of putting the additional support bar in. I mean, cosmetically it will look better. It'll just mean every time I've got to pull the engine in and out, I need to have one of these available, and obviously I need to take the turbo bracketry back off. But I would never be lifting this out with the turbo in situ anyway. So yeah, let's crack on again. So I was just thinking, while I was then looking for a bolt to replace this stud, what was in there for the engine lift point, I better actually go check the engine, what's in the car, just in case the other end of that stud is needed for anything. And oddly, look at the lift point in here, and it's on a bolt. So I don't know why it was on a stud. If anyone has any insight why this was on a stud, if maybe this isn't even the original engine for the 306, this might be a replacement from a 405 or something, but yeah, that just baffled me a little bit. This is the engine, by the way, what come out of the sedan. So this one suffered from cylinder head lift because I got a bit fruitful with the old fuel and boost. But yeah, I'm slowly picking up some discrepancies in between these engines. I mean, it's a DAA block as well, so I'm not actually sure what this one is. Not even sure we can see the tag amongst the rust. Don't even think the tag's still on there, to be honest, but yeah, just intriguing. Pretty much forgotten to record several times over now, so this video is probably going to be short and sweet, but yeah. Third support bar now going in on the turbo mount, if you want to call it a turbo mount. But yeah, so she's pretty much taking shape. Just got to whip it off in a minute, put it back on the dummy head, and then just TIG weld it all up. But she is pretty much there. I'm not really going to know until I've got the turbo off. Well, I say the turbo off until I take the hot side back off, and then I'm going to give it a bit of a flex test just to see if there is any flex in it. I was saying earlier about putting gussets and stuff in here, but I've got a little bit of a fitment issue, which is basically she is really close to the vacuum pump. I mean, clearance is clearance, it shouldn't move, but I do actually require this little bit of flex just in between these two bars to gently spring it open and get it in there. When I say gently spring it open, I mean I'm having to wrench it. This 12mm bar does not bend by hand. Every one of these bends which has gone in has had to be hot formed. Otherwise I would not stand a bloody chance with the stuff. But yeah, let's get it TIG welded up, hopefully finished, and then for now that will be it on the turbo mount. Well, after jumping up and down several times, burning and bloody branding myself, it is now done. It's all TIG welded up. Just waiting for it to cool down, when I can give her a quick polish with my polishing wheel, and then hopefully that will be it. That will fit straight on and support that turbo. But in a second I still need to give it that old flex test, but that's warm. That's pretty warm. So we're going to wait a few minutes. Right, that's it. She's officially done. This lower leg is a little bit of a bastard to put in, but that's done with intention. So the way I saw it is I needed to preload this leg slightly to make sure this whole structure stays rigid, making sure that the rod eye is the only manoeuvrable part as such. Now, bolts go in lovely and easy. Where's the Allen key? Ooh. Help if I hadn't tightened them up, but there we are. Yeah, literally lovely and easy. So there's a little bit on that one. Still having thoughts about adding the extra bracket into that on the side, even if it's just one lug in there, just for a little bit more strength. But I mean, this is pretty spot on. If I also drop that top nut off, like, so you can see it's not actually adding pressure onto the turbo. It will pull away to the point of that washer underneath. I can spin it by hand. So had intended to take the washer out, so this pulled the whole turbo up slightly, but I figured with this heating up, cooling down several times, it's going to settle where it wants to anyway, so might be better off leaving that washer in there. But yeah, so apart from obviously downpipe to fabricate at some point, that should hopefully be this turbo saga done. There's only one other thing I've got to look at, which is a bit of an oddity. Didn't figure I would need it, but it's been pointed out to me, and after researching it for a bit, I've seen it in a lot of diesel drag race, and that is with the mechanical engine running an external wastegate with the V&T turbo. Now, hold up for a second, because external wastegates are usually to overtake from a wastegated turbo if you weld the wastegate up, or you have a turbo without a wastegate. V&T, you don't need external wastegates, you don't need blow-off valves and shit like that. In my application, I might do, more than anything, to have it as a safety valve. So if one of the vacuum lines breaks or something like that, this turbo could pin itself to full boost, which I think would probably be about 3-4 Barbies can make, which would just fucking blend the turbo up, probably do some damage to the engine. Wouldn't imagine too much, but so it's going to be more of a safety feature. Now, how I want to do it is keep it nice and neat. Obviously, I've still got to cut these studs down and everything, so I'm thinking of just coming straight in the back there, external wastegate, straight into the downpipe. Don't really want to make a showpiece of it. I'm not interested in it for being something flash, the same as this. That happened to look pretty, and this happened to look pretty, but it's there to do a fucking job. So that's the way I see it. It's a necessary evil. It probably won't be used 90% of the time, but in the event of something catastrophic fails with the turbo, or with the control system for the turbo, should we say, it will prevent the turbo from overspinning, taking itself out of its efficiency range and killing it. So yeah, a bit of an odd one, but yeah. So enough of me waffling. Let's have a little look around. So you can see that ended up fitting beautifully around the vacuum pump. I can literally lift the engine off that if I wanted to. Not going to, but it's nice to know it's that strong. But yeah, it's coming together now. So it'd be nice to start fabricating a downpipe, but that means having this whole system bolted into the engine well, into the engine, into engine bay properly, to be able to mock it, to be able to do it. It might pay off and save me time in the future, but being it's cold at the moment, I really cannot be asked to lay on cold concrete and get under the pug. Still need to buy a 2-poster ramp, but I'm a bit tight. So yeah, this is probably going to turn out to be a pretty short episode, or another one of those ones I bloody waffled, so apologies for that. Cheers for sticking with it and for watching if you've made it to the end. And yeah, so that is one complete turbo mount. So cheers for watching, guys. Give us a like and subscribe if you wouldn't mind, and I will catch you next time when we will be doing some more fucking around with that old gal. See you later.